He showed up walking with a limp, but he left with something more powerful than just being healed. Walter Granger wasn't famous. He wasn't wealthy. He was just another forgotten name in America's military history. He had fought in wars that no one really talks about anymore. He lived alone in a dusty apartment above a pawn shop in Tacoma, Washington. No wife, no kids, only old photos, two Purple Hearts, and a silence so deep it felt like even the walls were tired. His mailbox stayed empty. His phone never rang. He had survived war, but over time, he began to feel invisible. Then one winter evening, something changed. He saw a documentary showing American veterans visiting the Philippines. The footage was old and grainy, but he saw children laughing, shaking hands with the veterans, hugging them. The people there didn't look at the old soldiers with pity. They looked at them with deep respect. The next day, Walter sold his car, packed a single duffel bag, and bought a one-way ticket to Roxas City in the Philippines. He wasn't looking for beaches or a tropical vacation. He was looking for something real, a reminder that honor and respect still existed somewhere in the world. As soon as he landed, he felt the heat hit him like a heavy blanket. His knees hurt, his back ached, but something else happened too. The immigration officer saw his cane and simply said, "Thank you for your service, sir." A taxi driver wouldn't take a tip and said, "My grandfather told me about men like you." And a little boy, no older than 7, called him Lolo, the Filipino word for grandfather. Walter didn't understand it yet, but in this place, being old wasn't a weakness. It was something people honored. He rented a small bamboo hut near a rice field on Panay Island. There was no air conditioning, no internet, but there was a kind of peace he hadn't felt in years. He woke up to the sound of roosters, ate sweet treats in the afternoon, and in the evenings, neighbors came by just to ask if he'd eaten. They didn't know much about his military service, and they didn't ask. To them, he was just Lolo Walter, an elder with stories to share. And for the first time in a long while, he started talking again. Not about medals or battles, but about the small human things, the sound of boots on wet ground, the eerie quiet after a firefight, the metallic taste of fear. Teenagers would sit around him and listen. They didn't look at their phones. They didn't interrupt. They listened, because in this culture, stories aren't just entertainment. They're a gift passed down. Walter began to change. His limp stayed, but it didn't matter as much anymore. His heart felt heavier in the best way, full. He began helping at the local school, teaching basic English and history, not from textbooks, but from the life he'd lived. He taught them what duty really means. He taught them about discipline, that real strength isn't in holding a weapon, but in knowing when not to use it. The village leader even built a shaded spot in the town plaza with a wooden bench in a small sign that read, "Granger's Bench, sit, listen, learn." When Walter saw it, he laughed. Then he cried. They invited him to speak at a local festival. His voice shook as he spoke, but no one cared. To them, he was an elder. And in the Filipino spirit of utang na loob, a deep sense of gratitude, they made sure he was never alone. On his birthday, they cooked for him. During storms, they checked his roof. Every Sunday, they saved him a seat at church. Back in America, he had once waited 6 hours at a VA hospital and left without ever seeing a doctor. In the Philippines, a village nurse walked an hour just to change his bandages, and then stayed for coffee. This wasn't just kindness, this was belonging. Walter didn't just find a place to live, he found a place where he came alive again. One day he wrote to an old army friend back home. The letter said, "You wouldn't believe it. They call me Lolo here, not out of pity, out of love. I tell stories. They listen. I walk slowly, they wait. I matter. For the first time in years, I matter." As time passed, Walter began mentoring a young tricycle driver named Junie, who dreamed of becoming a teacher. Walter helped him with English. Junie helped Walter learn Tagalog. And somehow they became family, not by blood, but by choice. Years later, when Walter's health began to fade, it wasn't doctors standing by his side. It was June. It was the school kids. It was the church women who once thought he was just visiting. He wasn't. He had become part of the village, like the mango trees, like the sunrise. Now at 83, Walter still walks, still tells stories, still tears up, not from pain but from joy. In America, they gave him a medal and a polite thank you. In the Philippines, they gave him a bench, a title, and a family. They gave him a second chapter. But this isn't just Walter's story. For years, he sat alone with memories. Now those memories are passed on like treasures. Some days, high schoolers would visit after class, not for grades, but to hear Lolo Walter speak. They asked about what it felt like to be a soldier. He would answer quietly, "It's not the battles you remember most. It's the brothers you lost, the ones who never came home." He brought old black and white photos of his fellow soldiers, young men with cigarettes in their fingers, dirt on their boots, and smiles on their faces. The students lit candles. They prayed. And somehow those long-lost soldiers didn't feel so forgotten. That's the power of this place, a country that doesn't bury the past, but welcomes it home. This is the quiet truth of so many American veterans. Some board a plane looking for a warm place to retire, but instead, they find something more valuable: respect, community, peace. So if you've ever wondered what happens to the soldiers who were forgotten by their own country, the answer is they don't just disappear. They go where the heart is still sacred, where age is honored, where war stories are not silenced. They're held, shared, remembered, to a country that doesn't ask, "What did you do for us?" but says instead, "We're glad you're here." And if this story touched you, don't just scroll past, share it, because these quiet, noble, overlooked stories, they matter. They remind us that even after the war ends, there's still one more fight worth winning: the fight to be seen, to be valued, and to be loved.